on Thursday, May 9th. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of Alburnett. We will go ahead and call our meeting to order. First item is to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Counselor Trump.
Present.
Counselor Rosenberg.
Present.
Counselor Suka.
Present.
Counselor West.
Present.
Counselor Myers.
Present.
Please let the record reflect that we do have a quorum to conduct business tonight. With that, I would seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Suka. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Alright, item number 5 is the public hearing for the FY25 proposed budget. Can I get a motion to enter into the public hearing?
Make a motion to enter into the public hearing.
Motion by Bodenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by West. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. The public hearing is open as of 7:02 p.m. I did not receive any written comment or any phone calls to City Hall regarding the budget. Just as a quick review, so this we do have proof of publication, so this published on the 25th of April, so it was published within the 10 days. Of note, and this will be on the resolution later, so total revenues or income for FY25 is $1,711,333. So that is our total revenue. And then our total expenditures is $1,481,465. 456, excuse me, numbers. We do also then have transfers out in the amount of $575,600. So our total expenditures and transfers is $2,057,056. You will notice that leaves us this year at a deficit of $345,723. That is intentional. That is, we have earmarked money for a park project as well as a street, and that is spending down some of our fund balance. And so we've been very cautious and strategic over the last several years, thanks to many on this panel that have done a great job of putting us in a position where we can start working on some projects. And so I'm excited for that. So that deficit is, like I said, intentional and strategic and aligns with our capital improvement plan. Any questions, comments from the public on the FY25 budget? Questions or comments from council? Alright, with that, I would seek a motion to close the public hearing.
So
Moved by Suka. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are closed at 7:04 p.m. Alright, moves us on to the sheriff's report. So that came in a little late, so it's not in your packet, but it is printed in front of you. As you'll note, the 43 hours were met, and there were 27 calls for service from April 11th through May 9th. So they're always present, and we appreciate them. If If you do have any feedback from the sheriff, you can go ahead and get that my direction, and I will send that over to Major Colston. The next item on the agenda are citizen comments. So we do have two types of comments here in the city of Alburnett, those for agenda-related items and non-agenda-related items. If you are on the agenda, we'll wait until that item to speak. But if you have any comments about agenda-related items, please state your name and address clearly for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. So, any comments on agenda-related items?
So I didn't get a copy of the agenda either. So I'm
Oh,
not sure what's
you're
on
coming
it.
up. I'll call you out.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I'll call you out. You're under new business.
Gotcha.
You're under fire. Yep. All right. Hearing none. Any comments on non-agenda-related items? That brings us to item number 8, which is the mayor's report. I will be brief tonight and just thank everyone for their patience and understanding as we go through the transition with staff. We're just really trying to get our hands around where everything's at and what pieces we need to pick up, so I just appreciate everyone's understanding. I'm excited for the update later in the agenda for the hiring update, and we can kind of look at what those next steps are. So that's all I have for the mayor's report tonight. Council comments. I will start to my right with Councilor Trump.
No comment.
Councilor Rosenberg.
No comment.
Councilor Sukup.
No comment.
Councilor West.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Myers.
I just want to give you thanks for all the hours that you've put in the last, what's it been, 2 weeks, 1 week, it's time's running together right now, so, but thank you for all the time and effort that you've put in on this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Make it easier as we look to transition. All right, that brings us to written reports, and we will recognize the fire department. You do have in your packet the report from Chief Hoover, which is on page number 4 of your packet. We did also get the minutes from their meeting. I'll get those scanned in later so you guys can have a copy. Those are sitting over on the desk, and we'll recognize our 2 fire department members that have joined us this evening.
Hello.
No.
I know that you've been in a transition period, I guess would be the best way to put that. So I guess some of our questions had been, what do we do when we need to order things? Before we went through your staff member here, and now what do we do and what's the process?
So I actually also, in Chief Hoover's report, he mentioned that they hadn't been notified. I have since talked to him, and so part of that is he and I are gonna have a sit down, because I also understand, we've implemented a couple of suppliers or service providers, whether it be for equipment repair, vehicle repair, or like your medical supplies, that maybe aren't necessarily meeting your needs in the way that we as a city, we're hoping to support you. And so I do want to talk with Ron about if that's something we continue, is that helpful? As far as ordering, if it's outside of those 2 agreements, like the Cintas agreement specifically, just send that request over. I've got access to all of the emails and everything else. So whatever you were doing before, just continue doing that, and we'll make sure that you're supported and taken care of.
Okay, and what I wanted to know was budget for this department, where does it stand currently? I should be able to find that somewhere, I would assume.
Okay, so that is one thing that we had implemented, and it fell to the wayside, in that every month I want the fire department receiving a budget update of your line items, and so we'll make sure that that's I know how to do reports now, so we'll make sure that's a memorized report, as they call them in QuickBooks, and get that out to you. I will say, and again, I've aligned with Chief Hoover, this will be in in the Treasury report. The fire department budget for the remainder of FY24, which is through June 30th, is running low. And normally we would do a budget amendment. I don't know how to do that, and I also don't think we have time, because it's got the publication requirements just like the regular budget.
Yep.
So we're gonna have to watch that one carefully. There's about $1,300 left in that public safety budget. So I've got a couple of reimbursements or invoices that Julie dropped off for the CPR stuff. Those are no problem. We can spend up to that 13, so we'll get that done. Also, a lot of suppliers will work with cities, and we can pay come July 1. New budget comes into effect July 1, and so, yeah, I think for the next 60-ish days, we should be able to get through. But,
Okay,
yeah,
so,
that one is a little thin, so,
but at least now we know.
yes.
Budget for the upcoming fiscal year is here. Somewhere, you've got it.
Yes, I
It's
have it here. I don't know if I can quickly pull that number out, just the way this is broken down, but I'll make sure.
That's
make sure
okay,
we
I
get
just
it to
wanna make sure that I can get my hands on it sooner or later.
Yep, and again, I want that to be a monthly update. You guys should have that information.
Okay. Question that we were curious to know was if there's, and some of you might know this, if there's money left over at the end of the fiscal year, where does that money go from our department? And is it put into a specific fund for vehicle replacement? Or does it go into a general fund?
So that's a
Just
great
asking.
question. It's my understanding, I'm no expert, it's my understanding, public safety is part of the general fund. So under general, there are a couple of different buckets built out. Any money left over just goes into the general fund. Now, come next year, we do have, so you heard me talk about the transfers in and out of those funds.
Yep.
We do have a transfer set up to start building a vehicle reserve. So that's something that we can't do necessarily, I think we can do it at the end of the year, but it becomes a budget amendment. But because this year we set it up ahead of time, we can transfer that money into a vehicle reserve fund.
So
So
it'll be
it's almost like
established.
we budgeted up front for it, and we'll build that up throughout the year. Now, similarly, anything in the general fund, we can move where we need it. So great example, we're slim this year, we could move money in, I just don't know how. So yeah, we can always do a budget amendment and expand our spending authority.
Okay. Community room rentals. I can look here and see what the calendar shows here. I have access to that. And I have a calendar for just Alburnett's fire itself that I can enter our stuff on, but then you don't get it unless I send you an email.
Is that the same Google Calendar? Because I do think they're tied together.
It's a Google, right?
Yeah, but we can't,
Sorry, you're gonna have to speak.
we can't make any,
We can't make changes or put anything on that calendar.
right, so like the community room, we can't put like our
Oh,
partial
you're like
meetings.
CPR stuff and that kind of stuff?
Yes,
Yeah, just shoot us an email. I've got access to that calendar and we'll
Okay.
make sure it's up to date. We've not had any reservations other than what was already on the calendar. I've not received any new
At this point.
requests.
I just wondered, because in the month of April, I
we had a
pretty
lot.
much locked up that whole station for numerous days with CPR stuff going on, so just asking. So if I ran into that again, I didn't wanna be overflowing somebody else's thing for a party of some sort or
Sure.
whatever.
So just so you are also aware, the community room rental calendar that we maintain is visible on the website.
Yes.
Right.
So there's a
Yes,
page
we
out
can
there,
see that.
you can see it out there. I can see your fire department one and where they overlap, it's just we don't have those displaying on, I would have to put it on ours that is connected to the website in order to have it
So
blocked
in
off
other
there.
words, if somebody does that, you can see that we have it
Yes.
booked or something, and then you can range around?
Yep,
Okay, that's
yep.
great.
We just don't necessarily put all those on the public facing side.
Yep, I knew one of the other things, you talked about access for the members, you got that figured out.
Yes, so Mac does know how to program the door codes, and so TJ got me the information for the new members, or
Yep, Mac has
So-
that.
we'll get those taken care of.
And the only other,
He's on an altered schedule for the next couple of weeks, but then we'll make sure. Yeah,
the only other thing would be security regarding outside vendors or lease service providers coming in and out of the building, and we're not totally closed down. Our biggest issue is we have it's basically our little room, that's our medical room, and we don't have that locked. So, because it's accessible to all of our fire people. So that's kind of, with everybody coming in and out sometimes, need to address that, I think, soon, maybe.
It was my understanding that we didn't have any vendor codes out there, that they were to be accompanied by staff, so I
Somebody's
can,
supposed to be there, right?
yes. So I can follow up on that.
So like when truck maintenance, I think is the,
Okay.
That's it, that's all I wanted to know.
All right, well, yeah, there was only one I could answer, thank you. So, it's pretty good. Yeah, I can follow up on the who has access.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
And I'm sure Ron will.
We're gonna set the meeting and chat. I hadn't been able to make yours. I joked, we were here every Monday of April, so I missed all your April meetings.
Works.
Any questions for Brenda or Verna? Or TJ for that matter?
you can flip
But
it.
don't ask TJ.
Right? I'll flip hats, that's all right.
He'll go like, ask Verna or Brenda.
Partial planning going well? It's one of my favorite events, so I'm glad you guys continue to support that. I know it's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. But it is going.
It's our major fundraiser, so.
It's a major one, yes.
Nice. All right. I think that's it for the fire department, if there's no other questions. Thank you very much, ladies. All right, that brings us to page 5 of your packet, which is the Public Works Report. So Mac put this together. Hopefully you've had a chance to run through that. So lagoon discharge is in progress right now. Kenny's been a huge help supporting that and teaching Mac along the way. We've had some maintenance stuff. We did have to do some maintenance on the UTV. The hydraulic pump went out. That has been fixed, and I believe he's going to be picking that up. And the skid loader is out for repair. That is an update since he wrote his report. We did get that to Houseby for repair. One other thing, since he wrote his report, is the flashing crosswalk signs that were approved at the last meeting were delivered early this week. So we'll start assembling those. What you won't see yet are quotes for the concrete work that we talked about. I didn't get a chance to get those published in the paper like we do for when we're looking for quote for work. So I'll do that following this meeting and make sure that it's publicized, and then we'll have quotes for the June meeting for that work. Any public works questions I might be able to answer or pass along to Mac? Spending a lot of time mowing. All of this, light rain followed by sunny days. The grass has been going crazy. You do not have a city clerk report. That did not get typed up, but what you do have on page 6, I would call this somewhat of our treasurer's report, but also speaks to some of Verna's questions. So this is a report I found in QuickBooks that shows the profit and loss. I do have it rolled up to the highest level, so this is the report we need to keep an eye on for budget amendments or how to avoid a budget amendment this year. So you'll notice in the middle of the page where it says expenses, there are, I think it's actually 8 categories because for some reason they skipped 300, which I don't understand. But our public safety, as you'll see, it's 1,500. It's 1,551 is what's remaining there. So that is the closest that we have spent. For council's awareness, that does not include the 4th quarter payment to the Lynn County Sheriff, which amounts to over $5,000. I have called them and they have made a note that we'll pay that July 1. So we will need a budget amendment most likely next year. So we're just going to kick that can a little bit. But they were incredible. They didn't bat an eye, so it helps to have good partners. But the rest, everything else looks pretty good. So Public Works got about 74,000. Culture and recreation, so that's like our beautification, those types of things. We're sitting at just over 16. Community and economic development, just over 17,000. General government, which includes everything City Hall, so that does also include wages and those types of things, is at about 51,000. And then our water and sewer are doing well as well. And so that is your treasury budget update. So public safety is the only one we're going to have to watch that we don't go over. So negative numbers in the over budget column are good. Any questions on this particular report? Is it helpful?
any information is always helpful.
All right, so that is our treasury report. Any questions before we move on? All right, hearing none, we move on to the consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So,
Moved by Sukup. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, new business, special event request, townwide garage sales, food trucks. This is from May 31st and June 1st. So we have Jody Willett here. Let's get to our page, and I know you have a hard stop at 7:30, so we're gonna get you here. There we go. So this is on page 22 of your packet. Jody, we appreciate you organizing the townwide sales. So it sounds like this year you're looking to add food trucks while the sales are going on.
Yes, so typically I would reach out to the area food providers first so that we're not bringing in and competing with them, but they have indicated that they're not going to this time. Possibly Gibby's may do something, but they didn't respond before this meeting. So, so far I've just reached out to a drink truck. It's like a Dream Soda, the Fizz Wagon. And I've never worked with food trucks before, so my questions were, where could they park, and is there anything special that we have to do as far as blocking things off, or can they just use a parking space? Will that interfere with people walking in the street, you know, in case there's a safety issue or whichever? Did I send you the form?
You did, yeah, we've got it.
Okay, so,
Yeah, we've got your application.
okay. So those would just be my basic questions. And then I indicated to you that the Fizz Wagon isn't actually a truck, it's a little camper, so it's not even going to need a lot of space, but they did want to be on Main Street if possible. And then I may reach out to like a coffee or an ice cream type of a truck, especially if Gibby's does a lunch type special, so.
Yeah, and they're welcome to use any of the public parking. So the Fizz Wagon did also reach out to City Hall, and so I've conversed with them a little bit. We're not looking to close any streets, so as long as they don't impede street traffic, the sidewalk is, I mean, they shouldn't be on the sidewalk, but sidewalk traffic can adjust. And then by that time, I don't know if you've talked with the school at all, but they're out of school, so I don't know if you could use their parking lot as well.
I did think about that, I considered asking them, but I wanted, again, to wait for this meeting. So as far as forms and technicalities, that event form suffices for any food truck, like we can have?
Yep,
Okay.
for this particular event, yeah.
Okay.
So the council will have to approve it yet, but primarily, so just so everybody understands, we do the special event permit, it's $0 permit, but it really is for anything. Generally, it's when they need streets closed and support from the city, but really, our policy states that if you expect more than 200 people to gather, so we even had to receive one for a block party one time, because they figured they'd have more than 200 people, so I appreciate you filling it out and getting it to us, so. Any questions for Jody? Figure if you feed them, they're gonna stay in town and shop longer,
Right.
right? So. All right, if there's no questions, I would seek a motion to approve the special event permit for townwide garage sale food trucks, May 31st and June 1st.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second? Second by Bosenberg. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me know if you have any other questions.
I will, thank you.
All right. Brings us to new business B, which is the resolution for the approval of the FY '25 budget. Which is very exciting. So it states, whereas the Code of Iowa, Chapter 384, Section 16, requires that all cities prepare and adopt an annual budget and certify taxes. And whereas the city of Alburnett held a public hearing on May 9th to receive comment on the annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. And whereas the budget includes total revenues and transfers in the amount of $1,711,333, and total expenditures and transfers out in the amount of $2,057,056, and a property tax rate of $11.03648. And whereas there were no comments received either orally or by written correspondence for or against the proposed budget, now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa, approves the adoption of budget and certification of city taxes for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, and submittal of the same to the Lynn County Auditor and State of Iowa. Any questions on the FY25 budget? Again, I'm excited it includes some pretty cool projects that we're looking to get. Hearing none, I would seek a motion to approve resolution 2024-14.
So moved.
Moved by West. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Suka. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Alright. New business C is resolution 2024-15. This will be for Roosevelt Street parking regulations. I almost put this in old business, but never actually formally presented it. So this is the official resolution, as we've discussed, for making Roosevelt a no parking zone on both sides of the street. Right now it's kind of a hodgepodge. There's some 30-minute parking on the school side. There's actually some on the other side that's no parking from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which it's a thoroughfare through town. Definitely have seen some close calls with people crossing the street, trying to get between parked cars and then not being able to be seen. Additionally, with the amount of semi and or farm equipment traffic that goes down that street, I've definitely seen some issues when cars are parked there. So I've already talked to the school. We will work in conjunction with them. They are doing a revamp on their front parking lot to put in angled parking, which is going to A, make more spaces, and B, make it easier to get in and out even during drop-off and pickup times, because you won't be trapped, you'll be able to angle your way out. So they're making those improvements to help with the parking situation, and I think this is just going to make it safer for everyone. We will work throughout the summer to get the signs put up. We'll wait until school is out. I mean, we're this close at this point. I don't want to disrupt anybody's routine. And then I've already talked to Superintendent Dybel about a communication plan and how he can help us spread the word about these particular changes and offer. They did at the beginning of this year, they offered alternative solutions of parking on Muthard or some of the other side streets that do allow parking. And so we're gonna double down on that a little bit too. Any questions on the no parking zone on Roosevelt? Alright. So I'm just gonna read the resolution for the record. So resolution 2024-15, establish a no parking zone on both sides of Roosevelt Street. Whereas the City Council is empowered under authority of Chapter 61 of the Alburnett Code of Ordinance to restrict the parking of vehicles within the right-of-way on any streets under its jurisdiction. Whereas Roosevelt Street has a vehicle and pedestrian traffic volume such that cars parked on either side creates a safety hazard. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa, that the north and south sides of Roosevelt Street from Main Avenue to the city limits, including all public rights-of-way adjacent thereto, shall be deemed a no parking zone. Be it further resolved that the City of Alburnett shall be responsible to erect signs along the no parking zone as required by ordinance. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-15?
So moved.
Moved by Trum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by West. Any further discussion?
Are you gonna paint that yellow all the way? In front of the school there? If we do that?
I don't think our other no parking, like, cause Main Street's no parking and those aren't painted, we could, I mean, it would help to solidify the change.
Maybe make it more noticeable.
Mhm.
Just something to show that out. I know some of it's painted yellow, and the rest of it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Thank you. All right, new business item D is resolution 2024-16, support for a workforce housing tax credit program application by Dan Sherman Enterprises. So I am going to recognize our guests here tonight. We do have all of the information that was provided is in our packet. Let me get there. So the resolution is on page 28, but then we've got others starting on page 29, and the floor is yours. Eric, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Eric.
Thanks so much, Mayor and councilors. I think that most of you are kind of familiar with this project from about a year ago, except for Councilor Sukup. So this is a workforce housing tax credit application. This program is still funded through the state, but it's different from the previous project in that there's fewer strings attached. As far as the design specifications, some of those risked being very cumbersome last year. And then there's no income requirements. So this is not necessarily a low income project. There's no ceiling on the rents. This does have a ceiling on how much can be spent per dwelling unit, which is $240,000. It's designed to be a blue collar, working class, workforce housing program. The big driver, it seems, in Alburnett is the school, biggest employer, right? And then it seems that the school is definitely something that you folks should be proud of. It's attracting people from kind of all across the county to move here. But talking with the superintendent, it seems that even the folks that work for the school have a hard time finding housing then in Alburnett. I recall from one of the meetings last year, or whatever it was, a year and a half ago, where there was another gentleman who was a landlord in town, and he referenced that he had a waiting list. It seems like you folks are popular and have more demand than you do have housing, and that's what this program is really for. My understanding is that Alburnett has never received this funding before, or to my knowledge, certainly not within the last 3 years, which makes this project one that's viewed more favorably. In their eyes, it scores better for that purpose. And then there's been some changes, especially over the last couple of years at the State House, where not to get super political, the governor wants more money to come to the small towns. This has been a campaign priority of hers for a while now. And so the program is geared to give more points for towns with less than 30,000 people. And then the funding as well is $30,000 per dwelling unit, which is what comes then from the state, plus the sales tax rebate, a couple $1,000s maybe per dwelling unit, rough guess. Whereas in towns 30,000 or above, it's half of that. So they're trying to put, sounds like small towns across the state, or towns like yours across the state, have been saying that they need more help from the State House, and this is a program then that has been tweaked to try to drive that. Dan unfortunately wasn't able to make it. He's got an emergency he's dealing with, and so I can speak to the project. I think that it is still going to be substantially very similar to what was before. It's 3 different sites, all 3 of which are owned by Dan now, and then 2 of the sites have single-family homes on them. So he would put a 3-stall garage with an apartment above, which is a very efficient way of adding, again, modest apartment that 2 or 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 3 cars of parking. And then over there on Roosevelt on the end, 203 or 206 Roosevelt, 206 would be the townhomes. Dan's been building houses, I think, for something like 30 years. He's got a pretty good track record for that. So this seems well within his developer experience and wheelhouse. Yeah. And this, or for reference, I've known Dan for 10 years. We've done this program before successfully in Cedar Rapids, and so been friends with Dan for 10 years. Funding exists. There's only a certain amount of it. It's a very competitive process. I don't know. I told him, like, if you got the land, you should at least apply for it, so. I did kind of try to convince him to do this, hopefully that's not offensive to anyone, because otherwise it sounds that he didn't have any immediate plans to do this otherwise. And so, if it's not for the funding, the project is unlikely to be viable. The city's contribution or local match to this would simply be to abate or just not charge the additional taxes for 10 years. So it shouldn't show up on your balance sheet in the same way that a TIF would. A TIF would show up as like a liability on your balance sheet, might impact your bond rating. I don't know if it would be enough to move the needle, you know what I mean? But this shouldn't negatively impact the bond rating, and then that 10-year tax abatement is a very standard way of communities doing their like local match.
And just for the record, because Eric and I had a chance to talk, our match is $1,000 per unit?
So the minimum of $1,000 per unit is what's required by the state, and then what's common then is just municipalities to treat the tax abatement as that match.
I had just one question on the fourplex, because I know that lot. I mean, is that designed and scoped for, like, the setbacks and everything on that particular property?
It is. The biggest question that he had was the basements. Obviously Dan's a concrete guy, he can put a basement in cheaper than, because he can do a lot of the labor himself, right? So he is inclined to try to make them bigger by adding the basement and basement square footage, and obviously like the longer driveways. I don't know. My 2 cents is like if you have a $240,000 cap per dwelling unit, he just has to be a little bit careful with, he might put a bunch of sweat equity in there, which I wouldn't be able to do. I'm not a concrete guy. I would have to pay him to do it. And so for me to build the same thing would likely be more than 240, but he might be able to put together something that is impressively like bigger than what you would expect bang for your buck. And so, yeah, there's still some room to make modifications to whether or not it has a basement.
I just want to make sure we weren't going to have to do any kind of variance to make it fit.
Yeah,
More, more length and width-wise, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
No, I don't believe so.
okay.
So, yeah.
One thing of note, and I did talk to Sandy about this as well, so in your packet on page 32, you do have, I had to dig, this was further back than I remembered. I was looking at December of last year, I'm like, oh, it was 22. That year just disappeared, but you do have the meeting minutes from the Planning and Zoning Committee from November 28th of 22. They did approve the rezoning of these properties. They presented at our December meeting with their recommendation to rezone these properties. I've already talked to Sandy. We never finished that process, so there are steps the city has to take to actually record that zoning change. It does include a public hearing. I don't think the one we did in December satisfies, so we'll redo that. And then an ordinance. And so very similar to what we just kind of did with the vacating the alleyways as well. So Dan's application is due here in June, even before our next council meeting. I think it's June 10th. And so what we'll do is if council approves this tonight, we'll be able to give just a letter of support in addition to the resolution, just stating where we at in the rezoning process and when we expect that to be completed. So.
And just for the record, we did touch base, or you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I told her. Yep, just
Yeah.
a letter from the city clerk stating that P&Z had already approved it, and you just have to go through the reading. Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
If anybody has any questions about it, I can speak to the project to some degree. Obviously, I won't have all the technical detail without Dan, but materially very similar to what was presented apparently a year and a half ago. Time flies.
So it does look like, so when Dan presented that first time, there was the 201 Roosevelt, which I'm pretty sure is the one near the school, like by the playground.
That
That's
one we
been
decided
removed.
to cut because it sounded like the way that the water was set up, it was going to have challenges. That was technically more funding, $90,000 per dwelling unit. This is only $30,000 per dwelling unit. The thinking at that time was that $90,000 might be enough to do that, but it was going to take some technical finesse because I think that the water line crosses a adjoining property owner.
Yes.
And so he decided that let's do a simpler thing.
And what you'll note in the P and Z minutes is that was the only one that was already zoned R2, so we'll make sure that if council approves, we can get the other 3. And we should do that anyway, P and Z already made the recommendation, so we can go ahead with that rezoning.
The only other thing I would say is this funding is, now that, everybody's becoming more aware of this, this project, future projects, this would be a good way for the city to, just other developers that, you have in your networks, this would be something that's good for more people to do, genuinely. You might as well go local, in my opinion.
Any questions for Eric or Sandy?
Could you, in the resolution, they're talking about the valuation of at least $10,000, not to exceed 207, and it works back to net, but work through that for me.
It's gonna be a little bit complex.
I'm looking at is this, go back with your cash flow as far as your abatements on there?
I just gotta see if that's the pro forma or if that's the page that has the,
Pro forma,
Oh.
that's what I'm looking at.
yeah. Or so, say one more time the question, I apologize.
That's basically our commitment towards this project then, the net present value,
Oh.
is that right?
So net present value would be one way of viewing the, what the taxes are set to become. And
Yes,
so
the-
then that's,
The taxes we're not charging on the improvements,
yeah, it's just,
over a 10-year period.
yeah, it's a simpler way of basically picking a number, a hard
Yeah.
and fast number. The
That's
other,
the value today, yeah.
the other way of doing it though would be to submit the plans to the assessor, and then the assessor could come up with a number. It would just have taken longer.
Yeah, well, this is a rough idea, okay.
Yeah, it gets us close enough to where this is like an actionable thing for the state to evaluate, and
Okay.
yeah, it's how it's designed.
That's why I assumed it meant, but I wanted to
Yeah, yeah.
get that clarified.
Any other questions? Alright. If not, I would seek a motion to approve resolution 2024-16. I'm not gonna read this one because we basically just recapped what the project is all about.
So moved.
I have a motion by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sukup. Any further discussion? New housing is good housing. I think we've hit a lull, and I've heard of a few possible development opportunities, but this is the here and now, so it'll be good to get more housing in town.
We're gonna take that one house out.
No,
The one by the school.
Well, it's not in the resolution.
Oh, okay.
It was in the previous planning and zoning, but it didn't need to be rezoned anyway, because it was already R2,
Oh, okay,
so.
okay.
Yeah, it's not in the resolution. Resolution is just for 212 Roosevelt, which will have the fourplex on it, 130 3rd Street, and 206 Roosevelt Street,
Okay.
so, yep. Good question. I was just aligning why the P and Z minutes look different than the
Right,
resolution.
right. I just seen it was in here on the report here.
Yes, those were their minutes from back then, so.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Awesome, I will get that turned around as quickly as I can.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope this one works out. All right, that takes us to item 12E, FY24 annual examination or financial audit. So, what you have in your packet on page, there's one past it, 33, we did receive a letter from, thank you very much for coming, from the state auditor, that basically because we have had a budget above $1 million from 2 consecutive years, we are required to have an annual examination. They give us the option, if we wanted to do a financial audit at our own expense, that we can go out for RFP to do that, and then we just notify them that we're gonna do an independent financial audit. We do pay in for the annual audit, or the annual examination, and we actually just paid that, so we pay $1,500 a year to be in the pool for the annual examination. I'm not sure if it costs us more if we actually get pulled and they come do that. So I just wanted to present this to council. My recommendation would just be to remain on the list for the annual examination, but I've also heard, other clerks in the area have gone out for RFP and they're having a difficult time getting responses because everyone's going out for RFPs, so. But we do have to respond at least with some kind of answer, and the answer can be, we don't know, by May 31st, so I wanted to get this in front of council.
If it was a normal, random state inspection, this is who would be doing the work.
The examination, yes, correct.
I would think this would be adequate to, you know, we pay into it. I mean, these are the people that would examine us on a random basis anyway.
The one thing, I will probably call or email them, their form doesn't really give that as an option, which is funny, because it says at the top that, you can have an annual examination. And it says, since you're required to have an annual exam, we wish to confirm your intentions, and then all of the options are for RFP. So I'll just, maybe under other comments, I'll just write that we prefer an annual exam, but I'll reach out to them first. There's no other questions. Joe, it sounded like you wanted to make a motion.
I move we have the, I guess, state auditor examine our books.
I have a motion to have the state auditor do an annual examination for FY '24. That sound good? That's moved by Trum. Do I have a second? Second by Rosenberg. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, item number F, dust control at the city maintenance shop. So you have quotes, pages 34 through 36 from 3 different companies that do dust control. So this is something that we've done in the past. We've not done it for several years. Our lot, oh, and then on page 37, you can kind of see the outline of the area that Mac requested the quotes for. So we can trim that down a little bit if we wanted to save a little bit of money. He did quote everything. Primarily, so that is all gravel. It does get a decent amount of traffic, especially with the skid loader turning the mulch pile that's back there, and then people going to and from the compost pile, to the point where, and even on a windy day, quite a bit of dust does blow towards those neighbors. And so, I'm gonna be honest, I did get the request from the neighbor if it's something that we would entertain, and so we went out for a quote, and that's what you have. One of them did give an actual estimate on the longevity. They say it lasts for about 6 weeks, so that's not great. None of the others would really put a time frame on it. They said it all just depends on the environment and the.
Is that doing it in front of Ely's all the way around?
That's what he had quoted, and he even had quoted like the driveway.
Driveway.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we could pare that back too.
Okay, it's on there. I didn't see it.
Yeah. There you go. One other thing that I have talked to Mac about is, you know, whether there's a long-term solution, if we even did, except I know he just dropped a new load of gravel in there. But if we did like a crushed asphalt, it wouldn't create dust. So this might just be, you know, do we do it now to be a good neighbor and then look at a long-term solution as well?
Yeah, this don't go in front of his house. This stays away from the front of
This is
his
just
house.
our property.
Yes.
Yeah, it just cuts across from the shed.
Yeah, it's seal coat to
Yeah.
the edge of that property, yeah. But I've definitely seen it low, I can understand.
I think we can take out the area where the mulch pile is. And that's not gonna do a bit of good if we do that.
Yeah, and this is an old picture where we used to stack it back further. I think it's actually,
Let's see.
It comes out
Yeah.
a little further.
Oh, okay, yeah, it does. Yeah, yep, there's, okay, I see it, yeah. He's got it pushed back now, so.
Yep.
Yep, okay. This goes from the first retaining wall straight over. So. Yep.
I'm looking at, looks like calcium chloride's pretty much what they're going to put down. The first person comes in at a higher quote, I don't know.
yeah, they're significantly higher.
Yeah.
So we got MK dust control, I apologize, we're not displaying, but I'm also having to take notes, so. MK dust control for the calcium chloride is $2,025. And they're the ones that did specify it's 6 weeks longevity. And then we have one from, looks like it's Nutrien. Their price is $575. And then
We didn't move enough.
Venter Inc., for the calcium chloride is $625.
Do we have a relationship with any of these?
I don't think so. Actually, if memory served, I think Kleesner used to do it for us, and we did reach out to them, and they don't offer that service any longer. So it's been that long. I want to think it's been a good 10 years since we've done it, and I think it just became cost prohibitive. But
I think we did it about the same time we seal coated in front of Dave's
yeah.
house.
I would be a little curious to see how long it lasts, because I'm sure they're used to doing like actual gravel roads. You know, when they think about moderate traffic, those are people going 55 mile an hour. This is basically a parking.
Well, I don't think we need to go with the high expensive one. That's quite a bit more money.
Do either of the other ones a couple times if you needed to.
Yeah,
See
yeah.
how long.
They
For
could
that cost.
redo it for the cost of it.
Yeah.
Between what you go in.
Do we need to name the vendor tonight, or can we just tell Mac that he can choose based on their availability, how quickly they can get it done? Because the cost is pretty much a wash, it's $50 per either.
I would put a cost maximum on it,
Yeah,
and I think that's fine.
just leave it
Authorize
at
up
his
to.
discretion.
And realistically, I mean, if we do it late spring, when the people are starting to be outside, and if it can last through fall, it's the other 6 months out of the year where no one's outside.
Late spring, about 2 weeks from now.
Right.
You're only talking $50 difference.
So yeah, if we just want to put a cap of like, what, 800 as the ceiling, we'll leave it for him. Do we need a motion for that?
I do.
I move that we allocate $800 for the application of a dust reducing product, to be spent by Mac at his discretion for dust control at the city maintenance shop.
I have a motion by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trump. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, old business, resolution 2024-8, the take-home vehicle policy for full-time employees. So this is something we did table at the last meeting. I did go through it, so it's gonna be on page 38, starting on page 38 and into page 39 of your packet. So, as discussed, I cleaned up references to city policy so that they're consistent. All of those are in the employee handbook. And then changed references where it was city council or city administrator, just made that supervisor. The one I did leave city council was at the very top, that it must be upon approval, which is what we're getting tonight with the policy. But the rest is at the discretion of the supervisors. Just leaves us some flexibility. I did leave, because we had a discussion about normal business hours. I did, so that's item under specific requirements, item B. I did change that to normal operating hours. Just again, that particular position doesn't necessarily have business hours. We like them to be fluid and flexible based on what's going on. So operating hours seemed more appropriate.
Cause that takes in snowstorms and that he can do that, so. Good.
I also removed all references to personal use. There is no personal use of the vehicle, so he will be, if in it, driving it, must be clocked in. But otherwise, the meat and potatoes stay the same.
I'll make a motion and we accept resolution 2024-8.
Motion by Bosenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna give that one to West. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Alright, hiring update. So we did get at our April 29th meeting, we approved posting a part-time city clerk position. So that's posted here at City Hall as well as in the post office. It has been published in the newspaper and it is on Indeed, which is where we've gotten all of our applications and candidates so far. We also at that meeting approved hiring temporary help here in City Hall just to have some consistent hours while we look to fill that position so that we can not necessarily take our time, but make sure that we're being thorough. We're not just trying to get somebody in here. So we'll talk about that second part here in a second. But as far as the part-time clerk position, we have had, I think, 7 applicants. 4 of those I have emailed about interviews. So Joe and Dave and I are hoping to get some interviews in. I've got 2 scheduled for next week. I'll get you both those times. I was waiting to hear from the other 2 to see if I could send you 1 email, so it was all in one place, but they've not responded yet. So yeah, so that's where we are with hiring of the part-time city clerk. Any questions on that? Alright, second part of that, so sub-bullet I do have resolution 2024-17 to hire temporary city hall staff. So as I mentioned, we did approve looking for that person or posting that position. That was also posted, because it is temporary, that was posted at City Hall and the post office. Applications were made available at the post office since we had limited City Hall hours. We did receive 1 application for that position, and that is in your packet. on page 41 and 42. So we have Eileen Chostner. I did have an opportunity to meet with her. She stopped into City Hall to drop this off. Full disclosure, she is my neighbor. I mean, we all are neighbors, but she's my neighbor. Has financial experience, is only interested in the temporary position, and even texted me today and was like, oh, by the way, I'm a notary. So that's kind of cool. We have a notary back in the office. So, I would make the recommendation that we hire. She's able to start on Monday. I just found our contact today. Again, some of it is me just having to dig a little bit to do background checks. So it is in the resolution that it would have to still, she would have to pass the background check because I couldn't find who did that for us. But found that today, so I'll get that submitted. She is available as early as Monday. You will, I can read the resolution, but you'll also notice in there it says not to exceed 4 months. That is in our handbook in the definition of temporary employee, is that it cannot be for longer than 4 months. So, when I posted that particular temporary position, it was not to exceed 20 hours a week, again, just to get us some consistent City Hall hours. And talking with Eileen, I mean, for the most part, is she can set that schedule for what works for her, but we would just like something consistent. If it's 3 days a week or every morning, like, I don't super care as long as people just know when they can swing in.
How many hours a week was this for?
That one's for no more than 20.
No more than 20, okay.
Yep. I didn't put that in the resolution, but it was posted with the job posting. Because I figure hours and those types of things are already in our handbook that they're managed by a supervisor, so I wasn't worried about mandating that in the resolution. We can if you want to change that, but.
No, that's fine.
Any other questions on temporary resolution? I do think it will be a good solution so that we're not necessarily just settling for getting somebody in here to keep things moving forward.
Okay. At the wage it's in here then,
So, so the other thing that I found out is for a temporary employee, it has to be within the existing salary ranges that have already been set. We don't necessarily have a City Hall support position, but I also didn't necessarily want to label this as a deputy clerk, just with that clerk nomenclature in there, so I was careful about that. However, the 24 is what we've maxed the deputy clerk job range at, so that is, it has to be between 18 and 24, that's up to council discretion. I think given the limited hours and the fact that she's doing us a huge favor, I was comfortable going to the maximum. Good question.
Okay.
We do not pay, before temporary employees, I checked the IPERS handbook, we do not pay into IPERS, and then she would not be benefit eligible, and so those, also two things that will save us a little bit. Any other questions?
You ready for a motion?
I would seek a motion to approve, well, you can make your own motion, but yeah.
I move we pass resolution 2024-17 to hire a temporary City Hall staff.
Motion by Trum, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Myers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. That motion carries. Alright, that is the end of our business. One last thing on hiring update. Depending on how the interviews go, and if we are looking at a very qualified candidate, it's still a competitive job market out there as far as people seeking good employees, and so we may call a special meeting if we wanna make that offer ahead of the June meeting, so just keep your eyes open for that. Alright, that brings us to final comments. I will start with Counselor Myers.
Nothing.
Counselor West,
Nothing.
Counselor Sukup. Counselor Bozeman.
I'll just add to what Chris said earlier about you putting in extra hours, and I think we ought to thank your business, your work area for allowing you to, you know, take on this job while doing your job there.
My boss has been very understanding. Thank you. Counselor Trump?
Nothing.
Alright. Confirm the date and time of our next meeting. As it stands right now will be our regular council meeting on June 13th at 7 p.m. But again, if we need a special, I will make sure we get that called. Alright. With that, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Myers, right? West. You guys sound alike when you're not looking. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sukup. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:06 p.m. Thank you all.